Welcome to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Charlotte Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. My special guest today is my friend Nicole Brandon. And Nicole, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
You're very welcome, Nicole. And it's one of the reasons you're going to be on the air here in Prescott, Arizona, is that you are taking a great topic, Route 66, on the road, and you're part of a traveling company that is going to be celebrating the Mother Road now and through the summer with this traveling company on Route 66. Is that right?
I am. It's so incredibly exciting. And one of my favorite parts of doing this show is it's an interactive show. And so you have a chance to participate with the audience. And any other show I've ever done, and I've been performing since I was a wee tot. And usually you have theater goers that love musicals, that love drama, that love opera, that love ballet, and they are compelled to go see that show. This is the first show that I've ever been part of that really people are coming from all over the world. They're so interested in the anniversary and the history of Route 66. So the audience is so diversified and people are enjoying it in a whole new way. It's like uncovering a new form of entertainment, and it's just been a blast.
Well, I love that. And, you know, what's interesting about Route 66, I was having a conversation this past weekend with Bob Bosbell, who grew up in Kingman. His father owned a gas station there, the Flying A, Al Bell's Flying A. And if people don't know, Bob Bosbell is the co-owner of True West Magazine. He is a storyteller and of great renown, very well known for his public talks on the history of Route 66 as a boy growing up with a father who ran a gas station in New England. Not New England, in Kingman, in Arizona in the 1950s and 1960s. And what's interesting is we were having a conversation about this phenomena of Route 66 and why there is this phenomena. And that on one of his trips to Spain, later on one of my trips to Spain, separate with our families, we both discovered that in Spain there is a chain of bars called Route 66.
That's wonderful.
And so it's an American iconic symbol, 66, you know, the Mother Road. But as we were talking before the show started, you didn't grow up very close to Route 66. You grew up a little further from that, not too far from I-95. So let's talk about how a Jersey girl comes out west and is doing a play on Route 66.
That's so funny because I grew up in Atlantic City.
Okay.
And there's a commercial, I think it's for Pace Bacani sauce, where the guy says, New York City, whatever that is. And when I tell people I'm from Atlantic City, it echoes back. People say Atlantic City, just like they've never heard it. It's a pure echo. I've never met someone from Atlantic City, but I was born in Atlantic City in what is now the Frank Sinatra wing of the hospital. And Atlantic City changed so much through the years. When I grew up, you could not even push a bowling ball down the street. There was nothing.
Right.
And then the casinos came in.
Was Monopoly a favorite game in your household?
It was. And most people don't realize that Monopoly is the streets in Atlantic City.
Right.
And Marvin Gardens is really where I'm from.
Right.
That's the city from Margate. And then nothing is there from my childhood, which is really interesting that right now we're talking about history, 100-year-old history. And I think maybe that's even a reason I'm more compelled to do this show than anybody, because when I go back to Atlantic City, there's not a skating ring. My elementary school, my junior high, and my high schools are all casinos now. The ice skating ring, the miniature golf, the ice cream, there isn't a shoe store. There's not a single thing from my childhood that still exists.
Do you have to go back and watch the Burt Lancaster movie, Atlantic City, to capture a little bit of that flavor from your childhood?
I do, but to talk about something that's been here 100 years and has made such a significance and that's touched so many people's lives, and that so many movies have been made on. It covers 8 states. So just the landscape alone is it's phenomenal. And
we know that there have been tens of thousands, if not millions of people who at some point, you know, got on I-95 and caught an interstate or a U.S. highway west just to motor west to Chicago or St. Louis and pick up Route 66 and take it west. And it does capture, and I was talking about someone today about this. It captures 3 generations. The thing about the Mother Road and Route 66 is it's not the Oregon Trail. It's not the Santa Fe Trail. These are, historic trails that we celebrate and honor as routes of American history. The California Trail to the gold fields of California, the Butterfield Trail that came through southern Arizona. These are major national trails that defined American history in the 19th century. But Route 66, it is something that is relatable right now to 3 or 4 living generations. But definitely, you heard, most Americans and then even Europeans have heard of Route 66 because of popular culture. And there's this power of popular culture, literature, television, and film that is been celebrated in so many different layers. So when did you first become aware growing up on the East Coast to the wonders of a Western road trip?
Boy, that's a great question. I've performed my whole life. So I had the opportunity to be able to come out west at a very early age. And I think that everything, you talk about Route 66, and that's one of the things that I love about this show so much. My character, Ruth, in this show is an actress that was not doing very well as an actress, and now she's decided that she's going to get a job as a park ranger, and she's going on an interview for a park ranger job. And my car swerves because a javelina runs out in front of me, and I'm in a car accident. And from the car accident, the show begins, and the road comes to life, and all the characters come to life. But my character in the show is innocent and learns and uncovers and reveals. And so my whole life, the West, everything about the West, whether you say banks because of river banks, or money flow, cash flow because the gold would rush down the river, or you look at the incredible landscapes, or you look at you look at the music and the history of music and story and storytelling, and you look at the humanitarianism that people used to ride together, and there were no minorities. Everybody were compadres. They were friends. They all traveled together. We look at the animals that we have and the way that we see nature and trees and plants. And so I think that traveling west inspired me at such a young age to beauty, to grace, to music, to art, to history, to land, to family, to tradition, to heritage, to hopes and dreams and visions and a million things. And then as I've matured, I see it in a different light, and I feel very honored and blessed to be in a country that has so much opportunity and so much to see and so much rich history to share and colors. I see colors on Route 66 that I didn't even know were colors. There are colors that you don't even know that are on the spectrum, whether they're in the sky with these amazing sunsets and these, amazing nightfalls, or just the mountains themselves, or the colors of the cars, or the neon signs. It is a kaleidoscope of America. It's just fabulous. And the people that you meet, I think on Route 66 are some of the most genuine, kindest, open, loveliest people, because there's a joy and a spark inside that you can't put your finger on, but it just emanates from people that you meet along Route 66. And I think that's what our country is about. It's that spark of life.
Yeah. Well, and I think that, right now, as everyone is coming together to celebrate the centennial, you've got something very special happening here with this troupe. What is the name of the show, and where can people learn about it?
Route 66 to the Grand Canyon. You can go on Theatricos, which is in Flagstaff, the theater, and it will tell you all about the show. We're at all the Route 66 museums. We're at museums. And then once the summer starts, we're going to be traveling through the 8 states. And it is a joy. And if you were listening to this, come backstage, come and meet me, because I'd love to share. And I love learning from the audience. We asked the audience at one point, what do you know about Route 66 and what does Route 66 mean to you. And we should have a team of writers there every night just listening to the audience's responses, because it's different for every person that walks through the door. And what people say are just gems and jewels.
I love that. Well, we're going to take a quick break here and thank our sponsors and come back and talk more about Route 66 and how your journey of discovery led you west to your career in radio and television and film.
At Foothills Bank, they're not just about banking. They're about people, community, and building futures. Whether you're managing personal finances, growing your business, planning for retirement, or buying your dream home, their friendly team is there to guide you every step of the way. Stop by your local Foothills Bank today. It's more than just banking. It's a partnership for success. Foothills Bank is a division of Glacier Bank, member FDIC. History matters. For nearly 100 years, the Charlotte Hall Museum has preserved our community's story. And over at Findlay Toyota, they believe in that same legacy of trust and reliability. That's why we're proud they support us here at the Charlotte Hall Museum. Just as Toyota has a long history of building vehicles you can depend on, Findlay is committed to our community's future. Go see their amazing selection of new and used Toyotas. Experience a legacy of quality for yourself. Findlay Toyota on Willow Creek Road in Prescott.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Charlotte Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. And my special guest today is Nicole Brandon, and we are talking about Route 66, the mother road that brought so many people west and back east, back and forth across the country. And so many people were on their way to California in the early years. You know, Route 66, step back in a little bit of history here. November 11th, 1926 is the official centennial day of the U.S. Highway Act. And when we think about Route 66, we don't necessarily think about Abraham Lincoln and the history of the American West, but the significance of the U.S. Highway Act signed by President Calvin Coolidge in November 1926 is that it was the first major federal transportation bill signed since the 1862 Pacific Railroad Act. When Abraham Lincoln signed the Railway Act in 1862, it chartered the construction of railroads, and all the major railroads worked under that bill, that federal bill, that provided land in exchange for the railroads to build their railways across the country. Leading up to 1926, between that time and 1926, people had continued to use the U.S. highways across the United States. The U.S. highways that I'm talking about are the Oregon Trail, the Santa Fe Trail, the California Trail, all the rutted wagon roads throughout the United States. And pavement was slowly being used. They were starting to slowly pave highways, but it was a local effort. It was not a national effort in terms of creating a paved highway system. The bicyclists and then the new automobile generation started promoting a good roads movement, and they needed better roads. And so, but how were they going to pay for those roads? We know that under the Railroad Act, the railroad companies got every other section for 10, 20, up to 40 miles on each side of their railroad beds in exchange for building the railways. So the federal government had to figure out how to get the states to vote in a gas tax. They needed, they passed a federal gas tax, but they needed the states to also begin accepting that they were going to tax the sale of gasoline to help pay for the U.S. highway system. And so this is not until the Interstate Act under President Eisenhower in the mid-1950s had there been such a federal project before the New Deal that was at such a level to improve transportation across the United States. And what's interesting about U.S. highways is they are much more traditional in their route. unlike the interstates. The U.S. highways connect smaller towns. They follow the geography. They wind up the front and the back of mountains, down through desert valleys, and they connect towns. And here in Prescott, US 89 is part of that. We are celebrating the centennial of US 89 at the same time we are celebrating Route 66. And our very own Grace Sparks here in Prescott, you're probably aware of Grace Sparks,
Yes.
grand woman who was a real leader amongst men here in Arizona from 1914 to late 40s. She was here in Prescott before she moved to Bisbee. But she moved mountains for the state of Arizona and for Prescottonians, and lobbied very hard to make sure that Prescott was on US 89, connecting it to 66 in the north, connecting it to US 60 to the south, and lobbied all the communities along the way, and actually is credited for having the bridge built between Ehrenberg and Blythe to connect the second bridge across Colorado, assuring that Prescott was on the national highway system, and that people crossing the country, if they weren't going to Phoenix, coming east on Route 60, would come north on 89 through Prescott on their way to Route 66. So the highways are community, and within our generations of our families, our grandparents' lives were defined by that new U.S. highway system. And literature, this is the layers of culture and why US 66 is so ingrained in our society. John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath is really the first major novel that writes about Route 66 and its critical importance to those looking for a new beginning in California and Arizona in the Dust Bowl. And so how many students, tens of thousands of students across America, are first introduced to Route 66 through John Steinbeck?
Right.
And so it's and becoming known as the Mother Road, and your road east to west for your career is parallel to Route 66. And so that I think that you're probably been, when did you first realize that you were going to be in entertainment, Nicole?
Always.
Always.
Absolutely always. I am a dancer and an acrobat, and to the point of my body was studied when I was a little kid. I never actually crawled. I just started walking when I was a baby, and they didn't see babies that walk. And I got thrown out of dance class when I was 2. They said that I wanted to teach and never to bring me back again. And by the time that I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I was unmatched in the world of dance. And I ended up winning in my lifetime 220 out of 220 competitions. I'm an undefeated world champion in dance and acrobatics. But when I was little, as soon as my parents left the house, I would start to walk on my hands and do no-handed flips, and we couldn't keep a babysitter to save our lives. We went through every babysitter in the state of New Jersey. And then finally, at 7, I made my very first deal. My parents sat me down and said, "You must be a child. When we leave the house, we have to be able to have dinner. We have to be able to have a life and go to a movie and occasionally, have a date." And my parents made me a deal that if I would be a child and read a book and play a game, watch television, just do anything other than scare the babysitters by doing no-handed flips through the house, that I can go take any lessons that I wanted. And the very first lesson that I took, within 3 days, I was in a show, and within a month they said, "We can't teach her anymore. You have to take her to New York." And I was put in adult classes within a month, even as a child. And I started studying in 2.5 hours a day. I would go from Atlantic City to New York to study, in 2.5 hours back on the bus, and do my homework on the bus for years and years and years and years. I did that. And then as an actress, I started in Miracle Worker. And then I did Diary of Anne Frank as a little girl. And then I did Hava with Theodore Bickel and Fiddler in the Roof. And I just continued on. And so I've been acting since I can remember. And then when I was in 2nd grade, I had a teacher that started reading my stories and sending them in and getting them published. And so I've been a published writer since I've been in 2nd grade. So I had 3 very separate careers. I had this acting career, I had a writing career as a child, and I had a dancing career as well. And then when I was 15, I was hired as the opening act of Resorts International Casino. It was the very first casino in the state of New Jersey. And they actually filed criminal charges because I was a minor working on a casino stage, and I had to go to court. And they had to bring in all my trophies, and the judge would say, did they ever ask you to do anything other than dance? And I'd say, they always tell me to smile. And now, because the laws have been changed because of that case, and you can see a show like Cirque du Soleil, but I was blessed because I got to work with all these celebrities when I was a kid, and they were so kind to me. And so I think now I've never met a stranger. I'm not afraid to go up to anybody because I knew when I was little, all these celebrities were just my friends, or they were, you know. So it was fantastic. And then I was performing in shows my entire life. I mean, I don't remember doing anything different. I skipped 2 years of school. I was 15 when I graduated high school and went to college. And then I had a 2-week break for a winter break in college, and I was coming out to California to check out California. And my father cried when he put me on the plane. And I had never seen my father cry before. Never, ever, ever seen my father cry. And he wouldn't stop crying, and I kept saying, Daddy, what's wrong? And he said, you're not coming back. I said, of course I am. I have school in 2 weeks. And I came out, and within 4 days I was cast in a television show that I was on for 3 years called The Insiders. And that started my career. And I started acting, and I had to call and say, okay, I'm not coming back, and started working in television shows and in soap operas. And then I went to London to study at RADA. And just recently, when I was doing this show, when I was cast in Route 66, and our listening audience doesn't know this, but you and I have had these conversations. My parents have had some serious health issues, and I had to put a pause in my career for a couple of years to be taking care of them.
Right.
And when I was in rehearsals for the show, I was so happy. I was so happy to be back. And I did an interview, and I said that I would do this every minute of every second of every day of my life. And they said, oh, you would want vacations and breaks? And I said, no, not really. I could put a pillow and a blanket on the stage, and I would be the happiest person that ever lived. It is my happy place when I can share.
Right.
And I can be on stage. I love it so much. And it's fantastic because Shakespeare calls them players, and we call them plays, and we call them screenplays. People don't realize the element of fun. It is so much fun, and even kids, if they're not having fun, they take their balls and bats and go home.
That's right.
But when you're having fun, and when you're able to, like in a sandbox, imagine, and that is the only muscle that has no limit. Our imagination has no limit whatsoever.
Right.
So if I could be a ballerina, and I could be someone from another world, and I could be a cowgirl, that I can wake up and literally imagine and bring that character to life. And if I take myself out of it, and I always think that each of us are connected in this world. I always think that life is like a chandelier, and you have your main source, whatever you consider that, God, the universe, and then each of us are individual lights, but we're all connected to this divine source. And so if I can be connected to that cowgirl, or I could be connected to that mermaid, or I could be connected to Charlotte Hall and someone that's lived. And
how you're connecting with your audience along Route 66
Yes.
and discovering their stories, and that they are resonating through the generations in the audience. And I think that that's one of the keys to really successful public art, like theater, like musicals, the way that people would have joy when they would go to the movie theaters and share an experience in the movie theaters together. That art form was designed, like musicals, like theater, like ballet, like opera, to be enjoyed in a public forum, because the emotion of the art is shared in the humanity of that moment, the laughter, the tears, the joy. And now you're bringing that joy through your art to people whose experiences or memories are being sparked by the play Route 66.
Absolutely. And I've learned so much. I mean, one of the things we talk about Pluto. We talk about Clyde Tombaugh, 1930s, Pluto. And then that's the same year that Disney created Pluto, the Disney character. I didn't know that until I did the show. I was fascinated. And some of the things that we're sharing along the story that we're telling people are just awe-inspiring. And I think that the audience is having so much fun discovering along with it.
Well, let's take a quick break there, thank our sponsors again, and we'll come back here and talk with Nicole Brandon more about Route 66 and more about her career and what lays ahead.
If you're looking for the store that has everything, Prescott True Value Hardware might be your answer. From having that part to fix your leaky faucet, to decorating your garden with charm, they've got it all, and a friendly face to match. For over 30 years, they've proudly served Prescott, supporting neighbors like you and local nonprofits along the way. Visit Prescott True Value Hardware. They're more than just a hardware store. If you're looking for the store that has everything, Prescott True Value Hardware might be your answer. From having that part to fix your leaky faucet, to decorating your garden with charm, they've got it all, and a friendly face to match. For over 30 years, they've proudly served Prescott, supporting neighbors like you and local nonprofits along the way. Visit Prescott True Value Hardware. They're more than just a hardware store.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Charlotte Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona. My special guest today is Nicole Brandon, and we are talking about her life and her career in acting and television and radio and on stage and dance, and about her newest play that she's performing in, Route 66. Remind us of the title of your play?
Route 66 to the Grand Canyon.
Route 66 to the Grand Canyon. And where can you learn about it?
Theatricos in Flagstaff.
Theatricos and Flagstaff.com. Is that what it is?
Yes.
Or .org?
That's a good question.
Well, look up Theatricos in Flagstaff and look for the title Route 66
to the Grand Canyon.
To the Grand Canyon. And, you know, both of those, Route 66 and the Grand Canyon, just saying them, iconic phrases, iconic locations in American history, places that have drawn people from around the world to travel down Route 66 to go to the Grand Canyon. Tell me a little bit about your travels so far on Route 66, because obviously when you were a little girl, you were a young woman, you flew from New York to Los Angeles. Did at any time during that time period, did you motor east or motor west all across the country, or were you flying back and forth?
I've actually motored in both directions. And it's interesting because in this show we talk about the 8 states. And I have been in all of those 8 states, and I've had my own experiences and incredible, almost like lifetimes in each of those states. And so when I say my lines, I've been here, I've been there, you know, Oklahoma City or Kansas, each one of those is an entire lifetime for me of being able to share those stories. And I could see the tumbleweed, or I could see the bright lights, and I could see the city, or I could see the cars, or I could hear the music, or I could taste the food. And it's all alive and it's all real. Yeah.
Well, so we talked a little bit about John Steinbeck's Grapes of Wrath, and, you know, great piece of literature. Students for generations have read it, fans of his writing. Of course, he wrote Travels with Charlie. He knew how to bring the land and the people to life through his literature. But let's flash forward then to after World War II, after the Great Depression, after World War II, in the 1950s, we have the emergence of a new America. Everybody is looking to, there's a new travel and tourism starting over from the Depression and the war. People are now traveling America. Tourism is on the rise. Railroad traffic is down. People are driving their new cars. They're starting their lives over. They're putting their families in the back of station wagons or, you know, their family car, and they're driving west, and they're heading to California. Bob Bell tells stories about the folks coming through Kingman. And it's like, how far are we to California? He says, oh, just a few miles. They did not realize that they still had to cross the whole Mojave Desert to get to the beach in Santa Monica. But Bobby Troop writes a song, great big band leader and singer. Get Your Kicks on Route 66.
Yes.
Nat King Cole records it. Soon becomes a standard. Band after band records the song. And then Hollywood develops a television series called Route 66. Even though the series is never really on Route 66, that it sticks. And even though the show isn't even filmed in color, if you close your eyes and think about the television show Route 66, you think about a hot rod red Corvette zooming down, the highway in some direction, east, west, north, south, with two guys on the road looking for adventure. And music changes. Rock and roll music, Route 66. The Rolling Stones, Chuck Berry, people are singing and dancing now to Route 66. It's a zeitgeist. It captures the flavor of the boomers, the baby boomers embrace Route 66. Not because it's the mother road to escape the Dust Bowl, but it's the mother road of adventure and going west to California.
I love that you're saying this. And Stuart, if you were listening, I want you to imagine that I am grinning from ear to ear because, Stuart, everything that you're saying is in the show. We talk about the song, Get Your Kicks on Route 66. We talk about how the music actually started the myth. We talk about the television series. We talk about the Corvettes. And the way that you talk about it just with such relishment, with such joy, I feel like you're on stage with me right now.
Well,
and it's really exciting.
Well, I've been part of 2 or 3 shows with Bob Bosbell and his 66 kids. And when we were doing this show with music and song and backdrops of photos, and I said, well, you know what? I realized I was born on the side of Route 66 in Santa Monica at St. John's Hospital. Mm-hmm. I am a kid of the Route 66. I was born just on, off the road. And that, it's so much part of our culture. Mm-hmm. And now, today, in 2026, as we celebrate the centennial, it's this reflective family, generational nostalgia that people are grabbing onto and saying, we need to celebrate this. Mm-hmm. And I think that your show, your creativity, the team you're with, that's going to take Route 66 to the Grand Canyon on the road, it's such a metaphor for America right now. And you're sharing it with new generations who have grown up with family members who ran gas stations and grocery stores and cafes from Illinois to California, whose lives were defined by the road. Motels, hotels.
That's it.
Campgrounds. They were serving chicken fried steak and biscuits and cold Coca-Colas and there was bars with jukeboxes and bands that were traveling up and down the road. And it captures the best of America, along Route 66. I'm excited about your tour because it seems to me it's taking all of your lifetime experiences on the stage, on a radio, on soap opera, and bringing that joy to audiences who have no idea what they're going to experience when they walk in the door, but they've heard Route 66.
That's it.
Right?
Absolutely. It's just been so much fun. And we talk about the food. We talk about the chicken fried steak and the burgers. We talk about the black coffee. We talk about the all-night diners. We talk about the root beer floats.
Right.
And the coffee mugs or in the classic glasses. And
I can just imagine, to me, I've never done the road from Chicago to Los Angeles, but I think if I was going to start in Chicago, I'd want to go look at that great Edward Hopper painting of a night at a diner and say, I'm going to get up early in the morning and go to a diner just like that. Have a cup of coffee and a donut, and hit the road before the sun and watch the sun come up as I'm driving south on Route 66, heading west, motoring west to California. I mean, that's just, in some ways, it just inspires you to say, I'm going to go do this, but I'm not just going to do it an average way. I'm going to do it. I'm gonna get my. Where's Winona? I'm gonna find Winona.
That's it. Or the Winslow. You want to find Winslow, or you talk about the largest Navajo rug. Some
Right.
of these things, and then television shows, movies, things like Pixar's Cars,
Right.
that are based off of Route 66, and
Right.
Route 66 still exists.
Right.
But our little kids now are learning about Route 66 through the shows.
So is there a little dancing and singing in this show? Can you give anything away, or do you want people they got to sign up and come see
They
it?
have to sign up and come see it, but I can promise you'll enjoy it. And it's a joy. It's a joy for us to share, and it's constantly different. It's ever changing. And then sometimes when we ask the audience questions, sometimes we're teaching them, and other times I'm blown away that people think you know the answers to the history of Route 66, and not just know the answers, but it's part of who you are. It's part of your life. It's part of your family's life. It's part of your history. It's part of what you teach your children and your children's children and your children's children. And it's part of, the photographs that you have in growing up, and what inspired you, and things that you love, and whether the cars that we have. Even I ask, at one time we have a volunteer come up, and I always ask the volunteers, what's your favorite car that you've passed on Route 66? We've never had the same answer, and we've been doing this show for a while now.
How about that?
And everybody has something else.
So what's
that
your
sparks
what's your
their
favorite car that you've
imaginations.
passed on Route 66?
I love all those old Corvettes.
Yeah.
The old 55 Corvettes.
Right.
And I do.
Right. I love that. Well, we're going to take another quick break and thank our sponsors. Then I want to come back and talk about your cast and crew, who your writers and directors are. Let's really break it out and talk a little bit more, really get into the details about Route 66 to the Grand Canyon. We'll be right back here on Arizona Roundup.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank you, Nicole. What a wonderful trip down the highway. And thank you for being with us. And thank you for endorsing the Arizona Roundup program. And thank you to our many fine sponsors who help make this possible. And we have a special announcement for those of you who are Route 66 fans. April 18th from 1 to 3 p.m. on that Saturday, the man of the road, Jim Hinckley, will be with us. Now, Jim Hinckley's America grew out of a lifelong love of road trips and a deep appreciation for the stories that shaped the nation. So, in 1990, with encouragement from his wife Judy, Jim Hinckley transformed his gift for storytelling into a mission to inspire others to explore America by way of the open road. Now, that passion eventually expanded into a wide range of books covering topics such as Route 66, the Checker Cab Manufacturing Company's Southwestern travel, and the evolution of the American car culture. Now, Jim actually has a weekly podcast recognized as an official Route 66 Centennial program. And through international festivals, book tours, and presentations across the United States, Jim continues to connect with audiences and share the joy of discovery found on the open road, and in particular, the Main Street Open Road, Route 66. So learn and experience the stories that make up the nation's past and present. That's Jim Hinckley. Saturday, 1 to 3 p.m., April 18th at the Charlotte Hall Museum. Be there.
Welcome back to Arizona Roundup with Stuart Rosebrook at Charlotte Hall Museum. And my special guest today is my friend Nicole Brandon, and we are talking about Route 66 to the Grand Canyon, her latest production that's performing here in Arizona right now, and it's going to be going on tour this summer. Thought we should step back and talk about the creative team behind this. I mean, who's the writer and who's your director? And
It's actually a really wonderful show by a man named Peter Kershaw, who ironically is British.
Mm-hmm.
And you may know this better than I do, but he modeled this off of the End of the Pier show.
Okay.
So comedy improv is
Right.
really what it was based on. And you're constantly breaking that third wall,
Right.
which I love. And I actually play several characters throughout the show, not to give the show away, but I play several characters. And the fact that he's created something where the road comes to life and other aspects of going along Route 66 come to life, it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliantly done and brilliantly written. And then last week, I did not know that he was in the audience, which I'm so glad as an actress, because you always want to make sure. And you know, your father was a writer, that,
Yeah.
and I'm a writer as well. And I value every word that I write is like I had a baby. It's a child.
Right.
Every single vowel and every single syllable means so much. But when you're doing a show like Route 66 to the Grand Canyon, there's so much improv because the audience is part of the show. So it will change constantly.
And so how many people are in your cast?
We have 3 people in the cast.
Okay,
And we
and-
play several characters.
All right. And then who's the director?
And the director is John Prosper, and he is fantastic. He's, as far as I've worked with directors since I was a tiny, tiny, tiny little person, but the way that he directs this show, how do you direct enthusiasm? How do you direct joy? How do you direct elation? How do you direct awe? Those are, that's very different than saying, okay, stage left, pick up a coffee cup.
Right.
This is something being revealed for the very first time, something being discovered, something that America has pulled a curtain back on. And it's like they won the grand prize on a game show, the fact that it's Route 66.
Right.
And to be able to direct that kind of energy takes a gift. And he brilliantly directed this show. And we have 2 casts because it's a very long run. We're running all the way into November. And luckily we get to be interchangeable. It's like the first day with my new tongue, interchangeable. So we have an opportunity to work with each other in the show, which is fantastic. One of our characters yesterday was a different character than I'm an actor than I'm used to working with. And he brought something entirely new, and I felt like I did the show for the very first time because listening to him and really listening, and then his take on Route 66 and the way he shares with the audience his experience and the way that his characters see Route 66 and experience Route 66. It was like I never did this show before. And the audience reacted completely different than the audience the week before when I had a different actor in that role. And one was not better than the other. It was just completely unique to the audience that was there and the way that the share was being expressed.
Right.
And so that's brilliant.
Now tell me right now, where is the play consistently right now before it goes on the road? Where can people go and enjoy this theatrical performance?
Mostly you can see it at Theatricos in Flagstaff,
All right.
at the Museum of Northern Arizona,
All right.
there at the Route 66 museums. And then once the weather starts getting warmer, they're sending us off, just, like the little spring chickens. And off we go to be able to see audiences everywhere. Maybe we'll even come do it here. I would love to be able to share this experience, but it is such a brilliant show. And everybody that sees it just loves it. They just have so much fun. If you're going to spend time seeing a show, spend time being filled with joy.
So who's booking the show? If someone wants to book the show or call up they call the Museum of Northern Arizona, or how do they get a hold of the show?
They would call Theatricos in Flagstaff.
All right.
And Jeremy is
Putting you on the spot
he's
here a
putting
little
me on
bit.
the spot. That's okay. But he's the public relations.
Okay, so-
and they want to talk to Jeremy, and
Okay.
he would book the show.
Great.
Yes.
And so, when do you think you're hitting the road on the show here? Is it been defined yet?
In May.
In May.
In
All
May,
right.
yes.
So, people are going to have to get their tickets ahead of time. And are you starting at a certain point and motoring west, or is it being booked in kind of in a linear fashion from
It's
Illinois?
not. It's as unique as the play itself.
All right.
And I do know that I was sharing that there are 2 casts, and the other cast member that's playing my character ended up doing another show during the summer. And so I'm actually covering her shows as well. So you'll get to see me a lot doing this
Well, it sounds like a lot of
role,
fun.
and it's just, there's no expression for that joy. And every time that I do the show, I learn more about Route 66. And so I'm looking forward to, at some point, doing a podcast, writing a book, sharing this experience, because not only is this show inside of me now, but the audience, their stories are inside of me. Every single person that comes to see this show has their own expression, has their own story to tell, has their own view, and they've been waiting to tell people about this. And so the fact that I have this opportunity as a writer, as a producer, as an actor, as a radio broadcaster, to be able to have this experience, I feel like I'm filling my cup. And then there can be no more. I'm just going deeper and deeper. I didn't even realize I could go this deep on Route 66 of this incredible information that hopefully I'll be able to share with the world.
So do you have a favorite recording artist who has, or some favorites on Route 66?
That's so great. You know, when you talk about Nat King Cole, of course, and then we talk about Paul McCartney spent his 66th birthday on Route 66.
How about that? Okay.
And he wrote the song Your Mother, which they talk about, was that about Mother Road.
I'm a fan of the Rolling Stones version, as well as Asleep at the Wheel, which are two opposite sides of the spectrum. But it's amazing how many people have recorded it. You know, I recommend, if people go to YouTube and you just type in Route 66, you know, there's surf punk, there's surf versions, there's, you know, metal, there's ballads, there's, you know, slow country, you know, interpretations. I actually went to high school with the Troop Brothers at Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks, California. But you know, that song is just, you know, it's one of those perfect songs, the right length, you know, and it gets people up dancing. And ZZ Top's covered it, and Bob Bell does say that a lot of singers they get out there, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, and then they kind of garble Kingman, Barstow, you know, blah, blah, blah. And so it has great lyrics, and I love the song. I love the fact that, you know, it's one of those songs that, you know, millions had 45s, and, you know, or you've dropped a quarter into a jukebox and you look for Route 66, yes. And the room just, boom, comes to life, right? There's just something magical about why we love the mythology.
Absolutely. And the music actually helped create that mythology.
That's right.
And we also talk about, one of the things I also love, we talk about the trees and the importance of trees to this state, and the steam engines and the trains, and we talk about that, and we talk about the museums, and we talk about Bridie, Theodore Roosevelt's donkey, forever wild, forever free, like one of the most famous. And so there's so much information packed into the show, but it feels so fast. It feels so quick. You're like, it's over already. How is that possible?
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you this question before the end of our show here, and is, what's next at the end of Route 66? What's the next road? Where are you going? What's your next road?
What a great question. So I'm here in Prescott now. I have fallen in love with the city. If you can fall in love with the city, I've learned the word love differently over the past few years. Caretaking for my parents, I learned a love that I didn't even know existed. It's a love that is so deep that it's just never ending. And then when I came to the city of Prescott, I came here originally for a weekend, and I could not believe how wonderful it was. I literally could not stop smiling, and my feet were like dancing about an inch above the ground. And I was completely blown away that so many movies were filmed here and there wasn't a tour. And I created a Hollywood film and television tour, and now we have a radio broadcast, and I'm doing theater reviews here. And I'm also doing a show called The Care Compass, being able to, other people my age dealing with aging parents and creating that.
What's that show called again?
The Care Compass.
The Care Compass.
And it's the Aging Parents Survival Guide. And I really, if I could help one person, because I would talk in my own head. I did not have a compass. Had no direction. And I wish that one person would be able to guide me. And the fact that I'm able to create a show and help others, I absolutely love it. But I love producing and I love writing. And so I would love now to be literally putting up shows that I've created. And then there's a huge film community. And
there's a growing film community here in Prescott.
There's a growing film community. And I am back since I have been here. I worked on 3 movies so far. And I love it. I love being back on the set. And so for me, the unfolding is writing and producing. We're talking about Charlotte Hall and working on something. There's so much information here and so many stories to tell.
And this is where filmmaking started in Arizona. This is in Prescott, Arizona. It's got a big old cowboy hat. We are a western town with the greatest and world's oldest rodeo at the heart of our city. But we are also a city of arts and entertainment, and the rodeo's right in the middle of that entertainment. Filmmaking, writing, art, theater. This Prescott, Arizona is at the heartbeat of creativity in Arizona history.
It absolutely is. And when we take people on the tour, people that are here that have lived here 30, 40, 50, 60 years, and they go along on my Hollywood film and television tour, and they will say to me each and every time, "You said things today I never knew, and I've lived here 63 years. You said things I've never known. I've lived here 47 years. People are astounded. Back in the early 1900s, movies started here. It's like the chicken and the egg. People say the first film were in Hollywood, and others say the first films were in here. And we can sit and talk about the 4-month span and what was created here, and we look at the very first studios that were here, and the silent movies, and the orchestras, even like John Philip Sousa used to play here for the silent movies. The transformation, we have movies that have won Academy Awards and television shows, and they're still filming. And when you're on the tour, or you do your research and you realize some of your very favorite movies of your lifetime, of your family's lifetime, of your family's lifetime, and television shows were filmed right here.
Right here in Prescott, Arizona, USA.
Incredible.
Well, Nicole, it's been wonderful having you on our show. We're looking forward to having you back here on Arizona Roundup at Charlotte Hall Museum. And I'm excited about the Route 66 to the Grand Canyon.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing it myself, making a performance. I hope you can bring it to Prescott for us all to enjoy here and celebrate the Mother Road and the romance of the highway in the American West. And thanks, Nicole.
Thank you. It's been wonderful being here.
You're very welcome. And we'll look forward to having you back on Arizona Roundup next week here at Charlotte Hall Museum in Prescott, Arizona.